William's voice pierced through the sound of clattering dishes as sharply as a blade. "Linda, bring me some tea now!" I hesitated, my hand frozen in the soapy water. "Wait, I'm washing the dishes," I replied, surprised by his tone, which was thick with disbelief and impatience. "Stop that and bring me the tea quickly. Can't you follow simple instructions?" Just as I was about to speak up, he interrupted. "What a useless wife you are." Suddenly, it was Madison, my mother-in-law, calling out from the living room. She was enjoying a slice of cake she had taken from the refrigerator, her eyes sparkling mischievously. "Make me some sweet coffee, please," she chimed in. I sighed, gazing at the mountain of dishes. "There are so many. Leave them for later, just do what we say." "Useless wife," William added. His words struck me like lashes, each one sharply felt. I am Linda, a 29-year-old working mother, ensnared in a life that seemed more akin to a prison than a home. Married at 25, I yearned for love and companionship, but found myself trapped with William and his overbearing mother instead. Our 3-year-old son was the only beacon of joy in my dim world. We resided in the home of William's parents, a setup I begrudgingly agreed to under the guise of caring for Madison after the passing of my father-in-law. Initially, I pitied her, assuming she was mourning, but it soon became clear that I was merely a pawn in her harsh game of domestic domination. No matter how much I cooked, cleaned, or worked, it was never enough. My efforts were consistently met with disdain. The meals I prepared were either ignored or harshly criticized. "This stir-fry is so lackluster," Madison would scoff. "Cook it properly from scratch." I tried to maintain my composure. "I'm busy and can only manage simple dishes," I would explain. "That's why I detest back talk from a daughter-in-law," she'd snap back. "Cook from scratch. Why don't you cook then? You're a good cook, right?" I once dared to challenge her, immediately regretting my boldness. "Why would I do housework when you're here?" she coldly dismissed. The cruelty from both of them worsened as time went on. Over the years, they began to completely ignore me as if I were invisible, a ghost haunting my own house. My existence, once merely underappreciated, now felt utterly erased. 4 years of this suffocating silence passed. William and I were around 30, respectively. Our son was growing up, but the oppressive air in the house remained unchanged. My mother-in-law, now 57, seemed to take a twisted pleasure in my misery. One cold evening, walking home from work, the painful truth weighed heavily on me. My life seemed utterly insignificant to them. I was like a shadow, unnoticed and overlooked, except by my son. The thought of losing even that small acknowledgement was unbearable. Arriving home, I immediately began cooking, trying to stave off my sorrow. I prepared mapo tofu, fried chicken, and stir-fry with peppers and pork, hoping to at least bring some semblance of normalcy to our dinner. But then William shattered the silence. "Bring me the mayo," he demanded abruptly, breaking his long quiet. His first words to me in ages were not of thanks or conversation, but a command. It was all too much, the final straw. The evening spiraled when Madison demanded, "Clean the toilet right now," during dinner. I was appalled. "Yes, right now," she pressed, her tone dripping with venom. I couldn't hold back my frustration. "Don't say such things while we're eating, it's disgusting," I protested, but she retorted sharply, likening my heart to her harsh words. The argument escalated quickly, with William siding with his mother and demanding an apology from me. But this time, I stood my ground. The conflict reached a breaking point, and I made a resolute decision to escape this toxic environment, for my son's sake and my own. I retreated to my room with a sense of purpose, downloaded divorce papers, filled them out, and presented them to William. He was stunned, but I felt nothing but resolute. "I'm filing these," I declared firmly, meeting his surprised gaze with determination. It was a moment of clarity. I was finally stepping out of the shadows. In the days following my declaration, I faced many hostile stares and harsh words. But amidst the turmoil, I found a peculiar sense of freedom. One evening, as I served dinner, Madison scorned the meal. "You call this food? Even a child cooks better." I swallowed my frustration, focusing instead on my son's smile. "Eat up, sweetheart. I made your favorite tonight," I said softly. William chimed in with sarcasm. "Oh, now suddenly you're the perfect mother, huh? What a joke." His words stung, but I was fueled by a newfound strength. No longer the unseen shadow, but a woman reclaiming her life and her voice. Remaining composed, I focused on creating a pleasant dinner for our son, even as Madison belittled me. "Don't act like you're better than us. You're just a nuisance in this house," she scoffed. The air around the dinner table felt heavy, charged with tension. William, emboldened by his mother's derision, threw more jabs my way. "So, Linda, have you ever thought about how you'll manage after the divorce? You can barely handle running a household, let alone your own life." I met his gaze squarely, confidence unwavering. "I've been the backbone of this family for years. I'm not worried about taking care of myself and our son." His smirk wavered, a trace of doubt flickering across his face. Madison jumped in hastily. "Don't be ridiculous. You rely on us more than we rely on you." The conversation turned to finances, a topic they generally avoided. "You know, without my paycheck, this household would struggle," I pointed out, speaking more to myself than to them. Madison's retort was dismissive. "We'll manage. We don't need your charity." But William's silence was telling. He knew the truth. Without my income, they would indeed face difficulties. In the days that followed, their behavior grew increasingly erratic. Madison oscillated between coaxing me to stay and hurling insults when I resisted. William, on the other hand, seemed disoriented, his once assertive demeanor diminishing as the reality of his financial dependence on me became apparent. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation between them that sent chills through me. "Leaving her is not an option," William whispered furiously. "We rely on her money." Madison's response was coldly strategic. "Don't fret, I have a plan. We'll make her life so miserable she won't even think about leaving." Realizing their true intentions shocked me. They cared neither about me nor our son. It was all about control and financial leverage. That night, as I lay in bed, a plan began to take shape in my mind. Their disregard for my well-being had ignited a resolve within me to reclaim my life and secure a better future for my son. If they were gearing up for a battle, they were about to get one, but it wouldn't be fought with mere words. I planned to strike where it would hurt them the most, their pride and their finances. The following morning, I set my strategy into motion and reached out to a lawyer, a sharp and astute woman. "I want a divorce, and I intend to make sure they don't receive more than they deserve," I informed her. She nodded decisively. "We'll ensure that. You've been the primary breadwinner, right? We'll use that to our advantage." With each day, my resolve only hardened. I began documenting everything, the insults, the financial manipulations, and even the smallest grievances. It was time they faced the repercussions of their actions. As I compiled evidence, I felt empowered for the first time in many years. I was finally taking control back from the shadows of disrespect that had loomed over me. A new chapter was unfolding. As the divorce proceedings commenced, the atmosphere at home became increasingly tense, but my fear diminished day by day, replaced by firm determination. One evening, Madison attempted a new tactic. "Linda, dear, why don't we put all this unpleasantness behind us? You know we're family," she cooed, her words oozing insincerity. I met her gaze without flinching. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated me." William, who had remained silent, scoffed. "Oh, now you're the victim. You're not as innocent as you pretend." My anger surged, but I maintained my composure. "I'm not pretending anything, William. I'm just not willing to be your punching bag anymore." As usual, the discussion turned to finances. "You think you can just take our son and go? How will you support him?" William challenged. I smiled with quiet confidence. "I've been supporting this family for years. I'll manage." Madison's sneer twisted her features. "You're nothing without us. You'll come crawling back." But their words no longer affected me. I knew my worth and the truth. The next day, I met with my lawyer again, who laid out the strategy. "We'll highlight their financial dependency on you. It'll be key in the custody dispute and the division of assets." I nodded, feeling a sense of validation. The law was on my side, and I was prepared to stand up for myself. At home, the tension escalated to new heights. Madison's efforts to undermine me grew more desperate. "You think you're clever," she spat one evening, "but you're just abandoning your family." I looked her straight in the eye. "No, I'm finally standing up for myself." William joined in, his voice thick with fury. "You'll regret this. You can't survive without me." But with each threat and taunt, I grew only more resolute. I was not just surviving, I was finally thriving on my terms. His threats no longer fazed me. As the court date approached, I meticulously prepared for the legal battle. I gathered financial records, documented their harsh words, and compiled evidence of their neglect. One afternoon, while organizing these documents, my son approached with a worried look. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. I pulled him close, filled with a surge of protectiveness. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine. We're leaving this place and starting a new, happy life. Just you and me." His arms tightened around me, and at that moment, I was more certain than ever that I was making the right decision. This fight was for my son's future, not just my own. As the day of the court hearing neared, I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. It represented impending freedom. I was ready to face William and Madison, to end their reign of control and abuse. I was determined to reclaim my life and secure the peace and happiness my son deserved. Justice was within reach, and I was resolute in seeing it through. On the day of the hearing, sitting opposite William and Madison in the courtroom, I experienced a surreal blend of emotions. This was a pivotal moment of change. The proceedings began formally. William's lawyer depicted him as a devoted husband and father, a portrayal starkly at odds with reality. Madison cast herself as a grieving mother-in-law, mistreated by an ungrateful daughter-in-law. Their act was transparent, their falsehoods glaring. When it was my turn, I spoke with clarity and composure. "I have been the sole financial support for this family for years. My husband's lack of employment and his mother's manipulations have brought continuous strain." William interrupted, feigning injury. "Linda, how can you say these things?" he exclaimed. I fixed my gaze on him, unwavering. "Support isn't just about words, William. It's shown through actions, and your actions have been selfish and cruel." The judge listened intently as I presented my case. Financial records, audio recordings of their verbal abuses, and testimonies from neighbors who had witnessed their behavior. The truth was undeniable. As the evidence accumulated, William's pretense fell apart and Madison's composed facade cracked, exposing her true nature. The courtroom grew tense and silent. Then the decisive moment came. My lawyer presented damning evidence of William's infidelity and Madison's affair with a neighbor, Jonathan. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as photographs and documents were displayed, laying bare their deceit for all to see. William's expression shifted to one of utter shock. Madison's face contorted with anger, her hands trembling. "You violated our privacy," she shrieked, her voice piercing through the courtroom. But the evidence spoke louder than her protests, marking a turning point that sealed their fate. The truth was clear, and justice was finally within reach. I locked eyes with her, maintaining my composure as I revealed the truth, a truth they had both attempted to conceal for far too long. The courtroom erupted into chaos, but it was too late. Their credibility was shattered, their deceits exposed for all to see. As the hearing concluded, the judge's ruling was unequivocal. I was awarded full custody of our son, and the assets were split fairly. William and Madison were left with nothing but their shattered reputations. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a profound sense of relief. The years of manipulation and torment were finally behind me. I had stood firm and emerged victorious. However, the most exhilarating moment came when my son rushed into my arms outside the courtroom, his face alight with joy. "We did it, Ma," he exclaimed joyfully. "Yes, we did," I responded, embracing him tightly. We were finally free. This was merely the start for us, a new chapter brimming with hope and promising a brighter future. The aftermath of the court's decision was swift and tumultuous. News of William and Madison's duplicity spread like wildfire, permanently tarnishing their standing in our tight-knit community. Their facade of respectability was irreparably damaged. In the days following the verdict, while I focused on rebuilding our lives, the satisfaction of seeing them face the consequences of their actions was undeniable. One evening, as I prepared dinner, Teresa, the wife of Jonathan, arrived unexpectedly at my doorstep, her eyes brimming with tears. "Linda, I've heard everything. I can't believe what Sylvia, Madison did," she confided, her voice quaking with emotion. I welcomed her inside and offered her a cup of tea. As we sat at the kitchen table, she shared her heartache. She had trusted Madison as a neighbor and a friend, and to learn of her betrayal, especially her affair with her husband, was devastating. I offered her comfort, recognizing the widespread damage Madison had inflicted. The next day, I encountered William in town. The arrogance he once carried was gone. He appeared defeated, merely a shadow of his former self. As I faced him, he could hardly meet my gaze. "I'm sorry for everything," he stammered, his voice a mix of regret and realization. "I didn't understand how much I depended on your strength." His belated apology marked a significant change. It was clear he had lost everything: his pride, his home, his family. In his downfall, he finally recognized the depth of his mistakes. Madison faced the most severe repercussions. Her affair with Jonathan not only ruined her reputation, but also entangled her in legal battles. Teresa, deeply hurt by the betrayal, filed for divorce and sued Madison for alienation of affection. The whispers and rumors from neighbors painted a stark picture of a woman toppled by her schemes. She became an outcast, shunned by those she once considered friends. One afternoon, I encountered her at the grocery store. Her posture was slumped and her movements rushed as she navigated the aisles. Our paths crossed and our eyes met briefly. The resentment and defeat in her expression were palpable. "You did this to me," she muttered as she hurried past. I watched her retreat, feeling a complex blend of pity and vindication. "No, Sylvia, you did this to yourself," I whispered to myself. The tables had indeed turned, and the repercussions of their actions were now inescapable. William and Madison were living the consequences of their years of deceit and manipulation. Watching them struggle, I realized that the best form of revenge was living well, free from their toxic influence. Refocusing on my son and our new life, I understood that this journey wasn't merely about revenge, it was about freedom. It was a break from years of abuse and control. Looking forward, I was filled with optimism, knowing that the best was yet to come. The true victory lay in our newfound peace and the promising future that awaited us, a future where the shadows of the past no longer loomed over us.